Good morning. We're glad you're here. Welcome to Bluefield, West Virginia Economic Development Authority. I'm Dee Puckett. We have folks joining us here live in the classroom and by Zoom, and this will be recorded and posted on our website, mybluefield.org, so at a later date, so you can revisit it or tell your friends and family to join us as well. I don't know if what you know about BEDA, the Bluefield, West Virginia Economic Development Authority, but we were designed and based on a three-prong approach, which includes supporting existing businesses and industry. That's one of our main goals. Cultivating entrepreneurship, and that's why I think a lot of you are here today, and attracting new industry in technology, energy, and advanced manufacturing. I think our team is listed up there. Our executive director is Jim Spencer, and he has been with our organization from the inception. He's the one actually who created it. And we're lucky to have him and his leadership. Joining us today is Harold Patterson. He's with the West Virginia Small Business Development Center. And Harold has been doing this for probably about 25 years or so. And he's a wealth of knowledge along with Jim. They make a great team. And so he's going to be leading this class. This is one class. We have several others scheduled. One is March 18th, and that is for website and digital marketing. So I would love for everybody who's participating today to sign up for that one as well. It is also a lunch and learn from 11 to 1. And then we have our entrepreneur to entrepreneur evening session. I think that's 5:30 to 7:30, and that'll be here in this building downstairs. And that's an opportunity. Jim likes to describe it as speed dating for entrepreneurs. And so there will be 10 successful local business owners who will share their knowledge and insight and give you a chance to network, ask questions, learn. There's food involved there as well, so that's always a plus. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. The rest of our team, as I said, I'm Dee Puckett. Who we couldn't do without in the back is Faith Blackwell, and she's the technical wizard and marketing expert. In addition, we have Christian Yates, who is our intern. He's a student at Bluefield State University. And I'm glad Harold's here and can join us. Thank you, Harold. I'll get out of your way so the fun can begin.
Thank you, Dee. And thank everybody for attending today. It's a pleasure to talk to you guys. I don't get to do this a whole lot lately, but let's get through this and see if we can get you guys started in business or get you expanded. Hopefully today, what we're going to give you is a lot of ideas, a lot of questions that you'll be able to come and ask either myself and or BEDA, and hopefully we'll get you some answers. Just a little bit about who the Small Business Development Centers are. We use that acronym SBDC a lot, but who we are is we're actually a state agency. Of course, our governor is Patrick Morrisey at this time, and we are in the Department of Education, or Department of Economic Development. Department of Economic Development. And right now that's headed up by Mike Graney. My director for the SBDC is Will Miller. You'll see on that slide it says acting director, but a couple of days ago he was named the director. Beneath that, you can see that we're divided up into regions, northern, eastern, and southern. We're in the southern region, and that covers Charleston, Huntington, and Bluefield. My actual territory is from Beckley south. I cover Raleigh County, Wyoming County, McDowell County, Mercer County. I help out in Summers and also Monroe counties. So if you need anything in those areas, I'm the guy to get a hold of. Okay. What did we do last year? We're state funded. You guys give us money, so we kind of like to brag on ourselves a little bit. So you can see that we helped approximately 72 businesses start last year. Doesn't sound like a lot, but those are startups. We also do expansions. So if you're in business and you need a loan to expand or to create another division or whatever, we also help in that. We supported 3,188 jobs. We saw 1,516 West Virginians. We say West Virginians, some of those are from out of state, but mostly they have businesses in West Virginia. We helped create 371 jobs, helped retain 77. Now, those numbers may seem kind of low, but the problem is a lot of times we don't hear back from people when we do the loans or whatever, and it's hard to get those numbers from them. So those numbers could actually be higher. This is just the numbers that we know about. The thing we like to brag the most about is the last one. Of the 16 coaches that are around the state, we helped the businesses get 48 million plus in dollars loans. You're going to ask me about grants. Very few that we could talk about, and we talked about them on an individual basis. But we do talk about them. We don't just dismiss them. We'll tell you if there is something available or if there's something not available. Most of the time, it's not available. Okay? I'll just tell you that up front. Okay. For you guys who are thinking about startups, one of the questions we're going to ask you is, are you an entrepreneur? Do you have that entrepreneur spirit? Do you have that drive? Do you have that tenacity that says, I'm going to succeed no matter what the odds? I've told several stories about clients that walked in and I thought they don't have a prayer. This is 15, 20 years ago, and they're still in business today. So can you prove people wrong? Do you have that drive to become a successful entrepreneur? Do you have enough time? You're going to devote your weekends. You're going to devote nighttime. If it's a 9 to 5 job that your business is open, well, who's going to set it up in the morning? You. Who's going to close it out late in the afternoon? You. Who's going to do the books? You. So it's not 9 to 5, guys. It could be 12, 14 hours a day that you devote to this. So one of the other questions is your family behind you? Do you have the support of your family? Your husbands, your parents, your kids, or whoever's associated with you inside your family? Are they going to support you in this? Because that can put a lot of mental stress on you if they don't. How much effort are you going to put into this? Do you expect other people to do things for you? You've got to take the bull by the horns. This is you. You got to be able to represent. You got to be able to have people know you, who you are, your wants, your wishes, your hopes, and your dreams. How much anxiety can you handle? How much stress? What's your stress levels? And can you handle failure? Because 85% of all new businesses fail. Now, that being said, working with people like me, that number goes down. And I'm not saying working with me, but working with the Small Business Development Center, SCORE, and other people like that. Those numbers do go down, but you still have a large number of small businesses that within the first 5 years, they do fail. And for a number of reasons. People didn't do their research. People didn't do the marketing the way they were supposed to. People didn't manage the finances the way they were supposed to. Just had starry eyes and didn't really look at the picture the way they should have. Those are a lot of reasons that things do fail at times. Okay, step 1, develop your idea. So what are we going to do? Identify the need or gap in the market. Do the research on the market, guys. I could have the best worm box for fishermen that there is. It could be diamond studded. It could be magnificent looking, but is there a demand for it? What do the fishermen actually want? Tourism's big in this area. I could have the greatest layout for a cabin in the entire world. But is it easy to get to? Is it priced appropriately? Is it marketed appropriately? So you got to do research on your market and then be able to try to get to them. Validate your idea by researching the competitors and potential customers. Again, doing the research. A lot of people look at the competitors and just dismiss them and say, oh, I could beat that. I could do that better. Every time I see somebody open up in an area, I always have two or three other people come to me and say, I can do that. Okay, what will differentiate yourself from your competitors? What makes you special? What makes you different, unique? So you got to do that type of research. And lastly, determine your unique value. Like I said, what makes you unique? What makes you so much different from your customers that you're going to pull people away from them? Because it's a big pie. That's all it is a big pie. Can you get your slice of the pie? And how are you going to do that? So what makes you unique? These are things that we can help you with. I can point you in directions that says, go look at this statistic or go look at that data. Here's where to find it. And sometimes I can do a little bit for you. Okay. Step 2, developing a business plan. This is where people like myself come into play. I tell people I don't write them. I do a lot of heavy editing. Okay. People like myself will give you sample plans that'll have words that you can actually change to fit what your ideas are. Hopefully there's something similar, that the business plan that they give you is something similar to what your idea is, that you can adapt it. Because most people have a problem with actually sitting down and putting words on paper. Remember your book reports in high school? People hated those things because they can't really sit there and go from, the opening line down to the bottom line. It's kind of hard to sit there and write this thing all the way through. So what I tell people is take these things in sections. Don't look at it as a whole. I can send you a 30-page business plan and people freak out. But if you actually look at it a section at a time, you may be only looking at a page or a page and a half. And all you do is change the words to fit your idea, to fit you. Don't just change the name of the company and take on somebody else's ideas. Bring your ideas to life on that paper. I'll help you do that. People like myself will help you do that. BEDA will help you do that. We sit down. We actually go through these things with you. We'll put it on a big screen and we'll look at it. We'll discuss it. We'll ask you questions about it. Why did you say this? Why did you say that? And give you our opinions because, again, I have been doing this for a long time. I've seen what was successful and I've seen what wasn't. And I'll ask you why you are going to be successful in the things that you're saying. Market research, we talked about that in developing your idea. Products and services. A lot of people, again, I'll repeat this, they look at things and they say, I can do it better. Back to the tourism thing. A lot of cabins in this area. A lot of lodging spaces in this area. What differentiates yourself from those other people? A lot of restaurants in this area. What makes you different than the other restaurant down the street? If you're serving hamburgers, what makes your hamburger better than the other hamburger? What makes you different? Is it your bun? Is it the way you put your meat together? Is it your service? Is it your atmosphere? What separates you from other people that is going to draw a crowd to your facility? Marketing and sales strategy, how are you going to attract and maintain the customers? First of all, you got to look at who your typical customer is. You know, are they male? Are they female? Are they families? Are they singles? You know, who is the typical customer for you? Find out who that is. Then you start looking at, okay, geographical area. In my geographical area, how many people are going to travel a certain distance to come to me? If it's shopping, retail, Bluefield is a hub. It's a retail hub for shopping. So how many people are within an hour's drive, because it takes an hour to get anywhere around here? How many people are within an hour's drive would be able to actually come to my facility to shop? Okay, we'll find that number. And then you got to say, okay, of the 10,000 people that could come to my shop, how many am I actually going to get? How many do I actually need to be a success? So that's where we come in. We try to help you figure those things out. In your financial plan, we'll do projected costs. We have templates so we can put together profit and loss statements, cash flows, balance sheets, all those kinds of things that any lending agency is going to want to see. We get the information from you, and then we use it in the template to do the projections and stuff. Bottom line, and I put it kind of small, strained to see it. Ask me for help. Ask BEDA for help. Ask people for help. You're not in this alone. And we're going to talk about this later on, but you're not by yourselves. Okay? And that also includes when you get into business. A lot of times people get into business and you just don't hear from them anymore until they're at a critical stage. And the problem with that is it may be too late to help you. Went into work one morning, Monday morning, never forget it. As soon as I got there, my phone was ringing, and one of my clients who I'd helped in the past said, I'm in trouble. I need a loan. So how much do you need? They told me. I said, oh, okay, well, this organization lends that kind of money. This organization lends that kind of money. Here's what we can do. And you can have the money in a month and a half. They said, no, you don't understand. I need the money by Friday. A little bit late. So, okay. Yes. Mhm. Okay. Couple things that I try to tell people is you, oh, she's wondering about price and she's wondering about how to set prices. She's a very giving person and she don't want to overcharge somebody, but at the same time, she's going to need money to stay in business. And what a couple of things that I've seen is a lot of times people will just go around and they'll look at the competitors. And like if I'm in the restaurant business, they'll say, okay, Hardee's down the street here is charging $6.95 for their cheeseburger. Therefore, that's what I'm going to charge. The only problem with that is they haven't taken into consideration what their overhead is. You know, how much does it cost you to actually put together your product? You know, how much per unit do you have invested in that product? Okay. Back to the cheeseburger. If the Hardee's is selling for $6.95, they probably got $1.50 in the whole cheeseburger, in all honesty. We try to keep, in a restaurant business, we try to keep it at about 30% of your cost to actually put the food together. Been dealing a lot of that with the Jim's food truck program. And we try to hold our costs down to about 35%, somewhere through there. And then we start tacking on the additional cost of, you know, I got insurance to pay. I've got employees to pay. I've got all those different things to pay. And per unit, it would cost me X to do that. Again, we help you with that. We try to help you with that. And after you figure out all of those expenses, then you got to figure out How much profit do I need to stay in business? Because profit is not a dirty word. You know, Jim tells a story that a friend of his from Virginia Tech has a saying that entrepreneurship is solving people's problems for profit and fun, F-U-N. Okay, because if you're not having fun, you probably just going to lock the doors and go home. But you got to make a profit, guys. So once we figure all the expenses, then we tack on the profit because that's where you take home your salary, in all honesty. And again, we help you with that. You can't just go out and say, okay, at this lodge, they're charging $150 a night. Well, your expenses may add up to more than that because you may have loan over cost, you know, or overhead, you know, like that. So we help you try to figure those out. And when I talked about down here, the financial plan, and I talked about the cash flows and the profit and loss statements, we actually look at projected income versus projected expenses. And we try to help you figure out what your break points are. You know, what your break even point would be you brought in enough money to pay your salary, your employees, and all your expenses and your taxes, and there's nothing left over. That's your break even point. What we want you to do is to actually have a percentage of profit in there to reinvest back in the company, or you can take it. It's up to you. You're the business owner. Yes. Step one is basically developing your business idea. You gotta do some research to make sure that your business idea is a valid idea and that there is enough market out there in order for you to uh, make a living at this thing. Like we said, to make a profit at this thing. So, a couple things: identify the need or the gap in the market. You know, are even though somebody is out there in a restaurant, and I heard this on the radio this morning. Uh, if you're thinking about going into the restaurant business in Bluefield, what would you do? What type of restaurant would you like to see here? Because in all honesty, how many Mexican restaurants do you have? Not degrading them. I'm just saying, how many do you have? There's back to the pie thing. There's only so much people or so many people in that pie that you're going to be able to attract. So if everybody wants Mexican, it's going to split up. So if you're looking to do something like a restaurant in Mercer County or in Bluefield, look to see what's not there, what's not being filled in that gap, and then say, can I do this? You know, is there enough people out there? One of the restaurants they threw out this morning on the radio was um, Mediterranean food. And my immediate thought was, is there a market for that? Then they threw out Indian food. And I'm thinking, is there a market for that? Is there enough people in this area or that love Indian food or Mediterranean food? Or can that market be developed over time? Do you have enough patience and money to develop that type of market? So that's what developing your idea is all about. Okay. One of the biggest things that we get a lot of questions about is registering the business. Um, we're going to talk a little bit about choosing the business name here just in a second. One of the other things you'll have to do is with the federal IRS, get an EIN number, an employer identification number, and that's your tax number. It'll usually start out with 55. It's a 9-digit number. We'll talk about that in a minute too. And the other thing is register with state and local governments, especially if you're inside a city. If you're in an incorporation in the city, then you have to register with that city, a business license. But you also have to register with the state that you're in. I had a person from out of state tell me that they were registered in the state that they live in. Therefore, they didn't need to register with the state of West Virginia, even though they were doing business up here. And I had to basically kind of tell them, no, that's wrong. You have to register here. So whatever state you're doing business in, you have to register in that state. We'll help you. We'll answer questions about that too. Okay, first of all, let's talk about naming. One of the things that I try to emphasize is keep it simple. You don't want things that people forget real easy, or you don't want to make something so hard that it's hard for them to even pronounce it. So keep it as simple. Make it something that is associated with the business and that people are going to associate with you when they think, let's take selling tires. If I ask you, where's a good place around here to buy tires? You're going to come up with 3 or 4 different places that sell tires that have either been good to you or have a good reputation. Okay. You'll also tell me, the other guys are bad, so don't go there. But if I ask you also, what's a good tire? Who makes a good tire? Now there's names and tires that pop into most everybody's head. For a female, most of the time it's Michelin. For a guy, it's Goodyear. The reason females think Michelin is because way back when they saw the little baby inside the tire and it meant safety and I'll protect my family. It's the way they position themselves in the market. For Goodyear, a lot of guys associate that with racing. So they've stuck that stuff in their head. So that's why you try to keep those names simple, because you can remember them. If I'm thinking tires, I'm thinking Goodyear. If I'm thinking, where to get them, someplace local. That's really good. Consider future growth. I don't suggest that you use your name, especially if you think there's a possibility that later on you might sell this business. If you use your name and then you sell the business, if I'm Harold Patterson Enterprises and I sell the business to somebody else, they buy the name also, and then they ruin my reputation by screwing up the business, giving bad customer service or whatever. So they ruin my name. So I suggest you not use your name in there if at all possible. If you do, try to hide it. Be creative with it. Now I better not tell that. Better not tell that one. Any questions on naming? Any ideas that you have on naming? If you have any questions, again, just let me know. We'll try to answer them. Okay, before you fall in love with the name, make sure it's available. Now, how do I do that? Well, it's a couple of ways. You can search social media. You can Google it. Is anybody using that name? Or the West Virginia Secretary of State's office has a business entity search that you can actually go see who's using that name. Now, typically what I do, I give them as less information as possible when I go there. If you've got like, give me a name of a business. Okay. Friends are us. I would just put in friends and I'd see how many people are using the name friends and how they're using it. Okay. Because it'll give you a whole list of everybody in the state that's using that type of name. So give them as least amount of information as possible. If it comes back nothing, then give them a little bit more information, but don't give them the whole thing at one time. Okay, do you have any trademarks in mind? I actually gave you guys a handout about how to research trademarks. Pretty much you can go to the Federal Patent and Trademark Office website. You can actually scan a picture of what you got and see if it's being used. So if you've got a trademark in mind, you can actually research that too to make sure that you're legal and you're not imposing on McDonald's with the big arches because they tend to come after you. If she asked if I recommended somebody to do a trademark on the logo. Slogans, trademarks, yeah, if they're appropriate, if it makes it memorable to your potential customer, yes, because people remember that kind of things, and the more things that they see about you, the 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 better is that it's more easier for them to remember who you are. In the political seasons, and you hear the campaigns on the radio or on TV, how many times do they say the politician's name in a 30-second commercial? A bunch. It takes a human being about 7 to 8 times repetitively hearing something to actually remember it. I tell a lot of people in this class that I do, husbands especially, when the wives say, go to the store and get A, B, C, D, and E, our brains kind of checked out at A and B. We can't remember the other stuff. If you hear it repetitively, then you would actually be able to remember it. And that's why the more frequently they see something or hear something, then you're going to be able to remember it. You'll be able to again, back that placement thing I was talking about with the tires, place it in your brain. When I think of restaurants, I'm going to think of this place, over this place. Or if I'm thinking of cabins, I'm going to think of this place over this place. Sure. No, they're not. It's not required. Trademarking, I think, is about a $50 fee. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's about $50 to file it. And it just kind of stops people from using your concept for your trademark, is what it stops. Unless it's a really huge company and then they have really good lawyers. Okay, legal structure. Get a ton of questions about this type of stuff. There are a few different types of legal structures. Sole proprietorship, simplest way to do it. You and the business are one, cannot separate you. All the liabilities are yours, all the assets are yours. If you make a profit, guess what? It goes straight onto your taxes. Take a loss, guess what? It goes straight onto your taxes. If you get sued, guess what they sue? Sue you. They sue your house, sue your car, sue your kids' college fund, your retirement fund. They sue you. Can't separate you. If you do choose to do sole proprietor, the biggest thing that I honestly suggest to everybody is take a look at what are my legal responsibilities here? How likely is it that I would be sued for something? And we do live in a litigious society. The other thing is tax concerns. There's more tax breaks in the corporations than there is in the sole proprietorship. And again, there's the legal protections also. Partnership is just 2 or more sole proprietors doing business under an agreement, a partnership agreement. It's a very good form of doing business. It's been around for a long time. A lot of professionals used to do it, doctors, lawyers, accountants. They used to all form these companies in partnerships. You get whatever percentage of the company you own was the percentage of profit that you took or liability that you paid. If you ended up owing taxes at the end of the year and you own 10% of the company, then you were responsible for 10% of the taxes. Or likely, the other part was if you got sued and you lost and it was $1 million fine, $1 million finding. If you own 10% of the company, then you were responsible for $100,000. So whatever percentage of the partnership you owned is what you were responsible for. They kind of got tired of that, so they invented something called a limited liability company, which said, I'm going to combine the corporation with the partnership, and I'm going to give myself some legal protections, but I still want to be taxed in that partnership type of manner. So it's the best of both worlds. You can also be a single LLC. You can be one person inside that LLC. And again, you have some legal protections there, and you can choose to be taxed as a sole proprietor if you want. The great thing about an LLC is you can actually choose to be taxed like a corporation inside there also. So you have some flexibilities in those LLCs that you don't in the partnership and the sole proprietor. Excuse me. S corporation, very good form of doing business. It is a corporation. There's a lot of things that you have to do. To incorporate it, there has to be some stock in the company. Somebody has to own that stock, whether it's you or a group of people. One of the bigger things is, and this applies back to the LLC and the partnership also, you have to do your annual report to the state of West Virginia. We're going to see that in a couple of minutes. You also, in a S corporation, you're going to have an annual meeting, even if it's just you inside the corporation. You sit down at your kitchen table, you'll call the meeting to order, you'll go over old business, you'll go over new business, and you'll adjourn. You'll write all this up and you'll have it in your files. Because if the IRS comes in and audits you, they're going to want to see that. So there's a lot of steps here. They're all good forms of doing business. And what's right for you? Come to people like myself. Okay.
So like for me, like I was having time to the EIN website so many times. But one of the questions were, I felt like you had to make a decision whether you wanted to do a sole or LLC.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just do an SBA and then convert to an LLC? Would you recommend that?
Do a DBA. A DBA really is a sole proprietor because what's your name? What she's asking is, can she do a DBA and then convert to a corporation of some sort? The answer is yes, actually. A DBA is really Amy doing business as Amy's Enterprises. Okay. If you're a sole proprietor, it's actually you. Like I said, you can't separate yourself. It's just your name, Harold Patterson, doing business as Harold Patterson Enterprises. Okay. I could put any name out there I want. Now, if something happens to me, all of that goes away. My family can inherit like assets, equipment or things like that, but they don't inherit the business. The business goes away when something happens. So to answer your question, yes, you can start out as a sole proprietor DBA and then change over to partnership, change over to an LLC, change over to an S Corp, whatever is best for you. And again, I asked that question, what is best for you? One of the ways that we tell people to find that out is this website. The West Virginia Secretary of State Business Startup Wizard. This website has actually won awards nationwide for what they do. They will not give you 100% answer that you should be an LLC or an S corporation or C corporation, which we didn't go over. When you think C corporation, think stock exchange. But this will help you decide. Now, this QR code is live. So when you get these slides, that QR code is live. If you want to go to that website and just answer the questions, it's very simple. It's about, I don't know, 10 questions or so. They will actually give you 85% that you should be an LLC, 85% that you should be an S corporation or a sole proprietor based on the questions that they ask you. So it's a good way of doing it. The other thing is I gave you a handout with some good points about each one of those: sole proprietor, partnership, LLC, and sub S or S corporation rather. I gave you, I think it's 2 pages and a lot of bullet points. The last thing I would say is this: people you should consult in trying to decide what you want to be. People like myself, I can give you the good points, the bad points of your particular situation. You tell me what you want to do. I'll try to lay out as best I can what I think. But I will also advise you to talk to your CPA, who's going to do your taxes, and an attorney for legal purposes to protect yourself. Okay? Who should incorporate you? Either the CPA or the attorney. May cost you $300 or $400 to do that, but you'll be protected if you do that because they'll do it right. If they don't do it right, they have liability insurance. So this is a good place to start. People like myself, and again, CPAs and also attorneys. Yes. You can actually go on this website, the One Stop Portal, another award-winning website, and you can actually create yourself an account. This is if you want to if you want to incorporate yourself and bypass the lawyer and the CPA, you can actually do this yourself. But you can actually change it from here. You can actually go in there and say, I want to change my name, and be able to do that. And all of the paperwork will be registered with the correct organization, mostly the tax department and the Secretary of State's office, because they're the ones who track that kind of thing. There is a fee for doing that, but yes, you can change that name. And down on the bottom, when you actually do research on corporations, you'll find mostly the offices are listed with their addresses, but down on the bottom you'll see the annual reports that have been filed. If they've been filed, rather, you don't get to see the actual annual report, but if they've been filed, they're down there on the bottom, and you'll actually see any type of name change or officer change. They'll tell you that also. But that's all done through this one-stop portal. Now, I've actually sat with people and answered questions about, what are they looking for in here? Because there's stuff in here that most people, do not know about. We've already mentioned one, and that's that EIN number. Well, again, if you're inside the city, register with the city. If you need help with that, and especially if you're in Bluefield, the BEDA people are excellent at that. They'll help you. They'll tell you who you need to talk to and what they're looking for. If you're in Princeton, Sam Lusk, the economic development director over there in the city of Princeton, he'll help you. He'll tell you who you need to talk to and what they're looking for also. Most of the time, a city license is about $30, $35 a year. Okay, Bluefield's maybe 20 or 25, but it's not a whole lot of money. With the state of West Virginia, if you do a sole proprietorship, it's $35. If you do an LLC or an S corporation, it's $150. Partnerships are $150 also, annual fee. So you pay that every year. Also, in a startup situation, there may be some additional fees that they charge you in the startup. So when I tell you it's $150, it may be 200, maybe a little over 200 with the additional fees that they charge you. Any questions there? Right. Yeah, a lot of people make this mistake. A lot of people will go to the city and register, and the city is actually supposed to stop you if you don't have your state registration done. You're supposed to register with the state first and then with the cities. Okay. Now in Mercer County, there is Bluefield, Princeton, Athens, Matoka. Are they still incorporated? I'm not sure if they're incorporated or not. And then what's the other one? Always forget it. There's five. There's five. I always forget the other one, and I apologize to people in that town. But anyway, register with the state first, and then with the city. And like I said, one of the questions is the EIN number. Again, it's a 9-digit number. You register through the IRS. Takes you about 5 minutes. Costs you nothing. If you go out, have you guys seen LegalZoom and all those things? I've seen fees as high as $600 to get you an EIN number. You know, $300, $400, $500, $600 to get you an EIN. It's free. You can get it yourself. If you're sitting by a computer with a printer and you go on the IRS website, you can actually do this by yourself. Answer just a few questions. I think it's 7 or 8 questions, and give them the name, information about yourself. And then at the end of it, you can print this out. And I highly suggest you print it out and also save it to the computer because you'll probably need more copies. But it's free. That's the main thing here, guys. The other thing on the bottom is we strongly recommend that you do not use your social security number. Let the IRS generate a number for you if you're a sole proprietor. Okay. Reason being, fraud. Somebody steals your information, and guess what? They get your social security number and then cause you a lot of problems. So let them generate this 9-digit number for you. Any questions here? Tell him, come to contact me later on this afternoon, and I'll look it up if he's registered with the state or not. And one other thing about registering with the state, when you get to the end of that one-stop portal, print off everything that you've done. They'll give you a chance to do that. Print that off because it may take them 2 to 3 months to get you your paperwork back. Now, technically, at the end of that session, you're in business. You've paid your fees, and you're in business as far as everybody's concerned. You just don't have the paperwork from the state. So print that off because that's your copy until you get the stuff back from the state. So yeah, just tell them to contact me and I'll look it up for you. Okay, one other thing they're going to ask you inside that portal is something called an NAICS code. And a couple weeks ago, I did a workshop for Small Farm convention up in Charleston, and I kind of stole this from that. I just really wanted to show you what NAICS codes are. It's basically just a way of the federal government identifying the type of business that you're in. And if you're a corn farmer, you can see that your numbers are here. It's a 6-digit number, and it identifies the type of industry and the type and the section that you are within that industry is what those numbers tell you. So if you're going to be a farmer and you're going to do livestock, if you look at cattle here, cattle is listed 1121. But if you're a beef cattle a ranching and farmer, 112111. If you're just doing feedlots, it's 112112. If you're doing dairy cow milk production, it's 112120. So based on what section you are inside that industry, that's the number, the NAICS code number that they're going to give you. I get those calls all the time. They're asking me for this code. What do I do? Where do I find it? 9 times out of 10, I can look this up a whole lot quicker than I can tell you. So I look it up for them and I tell them what code that they probably should use. Okay, but I just wanted to show you this is how the federal government identifies you, what sector that you're in that industry. Any questions on this? Any thoughts? How are we doing on time? Okay. The other thing, if you want to do any type of governmental contracting, you need what's called a SAMS number. And you can get that by registering with the sam.gov. It's an easy process, but at the same time, it can be a little bit confusing on this type of thing. When you go through this validation process to make sure that you are in business and you are doing what you say you're doing, they're going to give you a cage code or a UEI. Government is even slower. The federal government's even slower than the state government, so it's taken time. There's been a lot of complaints from people that they don't get it in a timely fashion. The biggest thing that I can tell you is there is help, and it ain't me. We have what's called an Apex Accelerator. It's a regional contracting assistance centers, and it's Apex Accelerator. And this lady, Mary Hedrick, is located at Concord College, and that is her information. So if you want to do contracting with the federal government, she's the lady to call. And if you can't remember her, call me. I'll get you in touch with her. Why would I want to do contracting with the federal government? Well, let me ask you this. What do they produce? What does the federal government make on their own? Money. But they even contract that out. So they buy everything, guys. They buy staplers, they buy pens, they buy paper, they buy. For the federal prison over here in Welch, they gave us a list when they came in. I mean, seriously, that long of stuff that they would buy locally if it was available. Everything from food to eggs to psychological services to medical services to dental services to you name it. You know, janitorial services. They did everything. Matter of fact, this is kind of getting in the weeds. They had a problem where they had a need for an HVAC. It was an electronic HVAC that you basically could control elsewhere. It was what's called an 8A set aside, which means it's a very small business in a distressed area. There were no businesses like that in this area or in the state of West Virginia. They actually got one out of Roanoke, Virginia. And all they did was come in and set up the HVAC stuff. It was electronically or computer controlled, and they controlled it from Roanoke. But an 8A set aside is what you're really looking for when you're talking about governmental contracting, because there's no bid contracts. There's higher scoring on a contract if you're an 8A than when you're competing against others. It's a easy way to become very profitable in your business. So that's stuff you can talk to Mary about. Any questions here on governmental contracting? Going through this kind of quick because I want to spur your interest to come talk to us. Okay. Some West Virginia licenses that a lot of people don't think about. Do you have to get health permits? If I'm going into a lodge, I think you're in the lodging business. Do I have to talk to the county health department? Do they have to come and inspect me? County health. A lot of people wouldn't think about that. She's in the lodging business, but the county health department comes and inspects her to make sure everything's sanitary. Contractor's license, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, building, crane operating. There's a whole list of contractor's licenses through the West Virginia Department of Labor that you need a special license for in order to operate inside the state of West Virginia. Again, if you think you need something like that, if you're in type of construction or are thinking about going into that type of construction, let me know. I'll help you out. I'll look it up to see if you actually do. Other professional licenses include accountants, cosmetologists, landscapers, massage therapists. I've talked to all of those types of people. So if you think you need a professional license, come talk to me. I'll help you look it up if somebody hasn't already told you that. Okay. I'll stop here and take a break. Okay, we're going to take a break for just a few minutes. If you're online, stick around. If you have any questions, put them in the chat box and we'll try to answer them when we come back. See you in about 15 minutes. Okay. Okay, guys, welcome back. Hope everybody had a good time during the break. We're on step 5 of what we're going to talk about today. And that step is usually one of the biggest steps. And do you need funding? Most people do. Again, talked about earlier, are there grants available? Well, yes and no. Sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't. Most of the time, 95% of the time, I can say no, there's no grants available, especially in a startup situation. Very hard to find those types of things. So if you're looking for a grant to start a business, probably need to get a job, save some money, get some family, rich members of your family involved, or friends or whoever, if you're looking for a grant. But if there's other ways we can help you, such as self-funding, bootstrapping, which kind of just alluded to that, business loans, lines of credit, we've helped a bunch of those. I showed you in the beginning, 48 million plus last year. Investors in venture capital. That's when you try to get people, you've seen Shark Tank on television. A lot of those guys are already in business. They don't do a lot of startups. It's kind of hard to get somebody to invest in a startup. You've really got to convince them. And crowdfunding. You've seen the social media type stuff where they'll go on these websites and pose a business idea and then people send them money. Crowdfunding. If you're interested in any of that kind of stuff, talk to me. I'll put you in touch with people who do that. What if your credit is bad? Yeah, for you, D, you're out of luck. I'm sorry. Now, when we talk about bad credit, banks tend to look at credit in a lot of different ways than an economic development organization would. Okay. If you go to a bank, they're expecting you to have pretty good credit, 700s, some will do high 800s. Most of the time it's in the 700s before they will even talk to you. If you go in and you've got a credit score lower than that, they're going to pick up the phone. Most of the time they'll pick up the phone and call me and say, can you help these people? So we'll talk to you. I mean, I'm not a credit expert, so to speak. I can put you in with organizations that are. A lot of them are online. The one that we tend to use is out of Huntington. We can put you in contact with them to try to get your credit straightened out, get your credit scores up. However, if your credit's not that bad, and I'm talking, 600 and above, high 500s if there's explanations, economic development programs will take a look at you, a little bit easier than what a bank would. And what I mean by easier is if we can explain what happened, because everybody has trouble. You have sicknesses that you go through. You have divorces that you go through. You have accidents that you go through. There's all kinds of reasons why people could have, poorer credit. You just don't want to see a situation where somebody has not paid the bills. I had the money, I just didn't pay it. One of the shocks of my life, I was actually sitting in a loan meeting one day, and the person got turned down, had pretty decent credit, but they got turned down because they failed to pay their utility bill in another city that they moved from. They just moved off, didn't pay the utility bill. Showed up on the credit report, and the people turned them down because of it. So, yes, poor credit doesn't kick you out. We just have to work a little harder. Any questions on that? Any questions on funding? We work a lot with the banks. We do a lot of SBA type guarantee packaging. We also work with economic development authorities. In this area, it'd be the Wyoming County Economic Development Authority. They have several programs. We help you with that packaging. And when I mean packaging, it's the business plan, the financial projections, taxes, personal financials, and all the other forms that they request. And that's even for a bank. We'll do that kind of stuff for them. Okay, setting up your business. Opening up a business bank account, a business bank account, not your personal account. Early in this job, one day, there was a lady in a trucking business, coal trucking business. She called me up and said, my finances are just all messed up. Can you help me sort them out? I mean, I get those calls now. I said, sure. Bring all your paperwork that you got. Bring your printouts if you got them. And come to me on this day. We'll spend the whole day and I'll try to help you get this thing sorted out. She comes in, she's carrying a pocketbook. We sat there and talked for about 10 minutes about her business and just trying to get a feel for what's going on. And I said, well, where's your records? She digs down in her pocketbook and throws her checkbook, her personal checkbook, up on the desk and says, here it is. She had been running the business out of her personal checkbook, mixing business money with personal money. It took a while to get her straightened out, days to get her straightened out, because we had to get her a bank account. We had to get, all kinds of stuff done that she wasn't doing, because if the IRS ever came in and did an audit on her, she could be hurting really bad. So open up a business banking account. Do not mix personal and business. Don't do it. Yes. How do you pay yourself? You pay yourself through the company. It would be on a check from the company or a direct deposit from the company, but you pay yourself through the company. Okay. If you choose in an LLC to be taxed as a corporation, then that's counted as a business expense. If you choose a sole proprietorship, then you are responsible for all the taxes, both ends of the Social Security tax, both ends of Medicare, plus your own personal tax. So you're responsible for everything. If you do the sole proprietor or the partnership, or if you choose to be a sole proprietor inside an LLC. Yes. To open up a business bank account, remember the EIN number? That's the first thing they're going to ask you for, that paperwork. They want to see it. They're going to want a copy on file. They're going to want to see your driver's license. They'd really like to see the incorporation stuff. Okay. But they definitely want that tax ID number. Okay. Here's a question that we get a lot, accounting and bookkeeping type questions. It's whatever you're comfortable with. Okay. If you can do QuickBooks, which they try to say it's easy, and Jim will shoot me for saying this, some people just aren't account oriented enough to where they are successful with QuickBooks. Now, Jim and BEDA have been very successful in giving a lot of classes on QuickBooks. They have an association with Intuit right across the street. So they come in and they do classes for them all the time. I suggest that if you're thinking about QuickBooks as your bookkeeping system, get here and get in those classes, get help, get advice. Okay. If not, there's other types of software that I have recommended to people who says QuickBooks is just too complicated to me. So I've given them, a couple other things that they can look at, or softwares that they can look at that's easier than QuickBooks. Or if you just want your CPA to do stuff, they will do it for a fee. They'll take care of everything for a fee. Now, you may not know what they're doing, and they may not tell you. We're going to discuss that here in a minute, but they'll do it for a fee. So whatever you choose to do, whatever's best for you. Establish some business credit. We'll talk about that in a minute. Separate from your personal credit, because businesses are an entity unto themselves, and they are looked at like that. They are looked at on their credit score. It's different than a personal score. They score them differently. Okay. We'll talk about that in a second. And that's right. I remember now. Yeah, it's on their website on business credit. If you want to go there and look at it, it was really good workshop. And lastly, get some business insurance. Everybody needs liability insurance. We live in a litigious society and people love to sue. Get some general liability insurance, and whatever else that they recommend, take a hard look at it. Property insurance is also good, fire, theft. You can get what's called key person insurance. That's another one that I tell people to look at if they can afford it. And if you're going to have employees through that one-stop portal I talked about, you can apply for workers' comp. And I think you have to get that through Encova. Yeah, I think it's through Encova now that you go through the workers' comp and get that, or another insurance agency. When talking about insurance, I always tell everybody, especially in a startup situation, probably an independent agent is your best bet, because more established companies don't like to do startups. They tend to want you to be in business for a couple of years before they start insuring you. So an independent agent has a wider range of companies he can pull from. Any questions there? Okay. So you're going to choose a CPA. Which CPA is right for you? We've come up with a list of questions, and I actually gave you a handout with more questions of what to ask. What am I looking for? Tax deductions. I'm always looking for tax deductions. Is there anything specific to my business that I need to be tracking in order for that CPA to give me some tax deductions? Right? One of the easiest things that I tell people to do is if you're going to use your own car, get yourself a calendar book. On January 1st, write down the starting odometer. And then if you take a trip on January 2nd, write down where you went and the mileage, to and back, to there and back. You're not supposed to stop and do personal stuff during this. I'll just lay that out there. But to and back to your business appointment, you can deduct those miles. So you do that the whole month. At the end of the month, add up your business miles and write it down on the bottom. Do this every month all the way through to December. December 31st, write down the ending odometer mileage and then add up all your miles. Subtract the two odometer readings, and it should be different than your business miles, because if your car is solely dedicated to your business, that's one thing, but you need to prove that there's no personal miles inside there. Okay? Because that sends up flags to the IRS. It's very easy to do in tracking your deductions. Are there other deductions out there? Well, talk to the CPA. Make sure that they can tell you things associated with your business that will come in handy for you. The basic thing that I tell people to do, if you don't want to do the software and all that other stuff, get 12 folders. Label them January through December. Whatever receipts you got for January, stick in that folder. Whatever receipts for February, so on and all the way out to December. And then at the end of the year, take your folders to the person that's going to do your taxes. They're going to love you for it. Because if you take a big box of stuff in there, the first thing they got to do is this goes in the January pile, this goes in the June pile. So they sort it out for themselves. If it's already sorted, it's a lot easier on them, and they're going to like you a little bit more. Payroll. A lot of times people don't know how to do the payroll. How's that handled? Ask them how they handle the payroll, how that you want the payroll to be handled, then get suggestions from them. Are you hiring seasonal workers? Again, I did a farming thing a couple of weeks ago. I stole it from that. But are you hiring seasonal workers? If you are, what's the reporting requirements on this? Best strategy to manage debt and to sustainability, to expand. What's the best way that the CPA sees for you to do these kinds of things? Ask them these questions. If they take the time to answer these questions that you have concerns about your business or the way that your records are being kept or taxes, then they're probably a good fit for you. And I think there's 20 questions on the handout that I gave you. And those handouts will be sent to the people online also. But anyway, if they take the time to talk to you about this and give you ideas or set up an accounting system for you that's simple enough for you to understand and be able to do every day. Because like I said in the very beginning, when the doors close at 5 o'clock, guess who does the books? You do. So it's got to be simple enough for you to understand and be able to do. So if they're willing to help you with that kind of stuff, then maybe they're the right fit for you. Any questions about this? Anything online, Christian? Okay. One more thing about, I mentioned employees. There's a website in the state of West Virginia. If you do hire somebody, you can actually report that to the state. It's uh, new-hire.wv.com, I think is what it is. And you'll be able to go on there and tell them that you hired somebody. Or you can go back into your one-stop portal also. Okay, some things to remember when you do interview these guys. They're not perfect. They're humans. You know, the better they keep themselves educated in the changing atmosphere of the taxes and all that kind of stuff, the better answers they're going to give you. But they still make mistakes. They're still going to be flawed as humans. So it's up to you to look over to make sure that, you know, your taxes are being filed properly. You know, the numbers are somewhat correct as best you can see. Jim tells the story that, you know, he had an accountant do some taxes for him because he has some side businesses and it just didn't look right to him. So he started looking around and figured he better go get a second opinion. So he takes his taxes to another person and ended up he was right, saved himself about $4,000. I had another client that was in a restaurant business, and the person he had doing his taxes hadn't kept up with the tax laws. And he came to me one day and he said, I don't understand this. I'm paying several $1,000s in taxes. He said, it just doesn't look right. So I gave him 2 or 3 other people that he could choose from. And he chose one of them, took his taxes to them and said, can I get a second opinion? And the person ended up not only getting him back to zero, she actually got him $3,000 refund. So it was probably about a $7,000 difference in what he paid and what he actually got back. So just be careful, guys, when don't just hand this to the paperwork to the CPA and say, okay, here it is, I trust you. They make mistakes. If they haven't kept up with the laws, they're going to make mistakes. So just be careful. Can you understand them? I use a lot of acronyms. Government people are notorious for that kind of stuff. We'll throw out words that we use generally to everyday people, and they have no idea what we're talking about. Stop them and say, hey, wait a minute, stop. You just said something there I don't fully understand. Can you explain that to me? Make sure that they're able to explain it to your level and be able to talk to you. What do I mean about having entrepreneur spirit? Are they on your team? Are they on your side? Do they want you to succeed? Are they there cheering for you to say, I want you to be the best that you can be? Do they have that kind of spirit like you because you want to be the best and succeed? So do they have that kind of spirit to help you along? Any questions here? Again, you guys have that handout. If there's any questions, just holler at me. Okay. Establishing business credit. We also talked about that. And I told you it's different than personal credit. Personal credit, you're going to have Equifax, what's the other one? TransUnion and Experian. I always get Experian. I always forget Experian. You have those 3 major ones. There's actually close to 200 credit bureaus that report in some way, form, or fashion your credit to various companies when you're asking for credit. And also, I found this out too. Based on what you're buying, your credit scores can be different. If you're buying a car, your credit score can be one level. If you go into the bank and ask them for a loan for your house, it could be another level. So based on what you're actually asking for, those credit scores are different. I tell people that a good way for your personal credit is just look at Credit Karma. It's going to give you a good average. And I think there's Equifax and TransUnion on that, and it'll give you a good idea of where you stand. Credit Karma is free. You do not have to pay for it, and it has been recently bought out by Intuit. So if you just want to check up on yourself, that's a good way to do it. And there's others out there. I mean, you don't have to do Credit Karma. There's others out there that you may be more comfortable with. And also the credit union, the credit people will also send you reports every year. You can request from Equifax, you can request from Experian or TransUnion a report every year. I would really want to check on mine a little bit more than that because of fraud. You don't want, people open up accounts in your name. As far as your business is concerned, you have to apply to Dun & Bradstreet for a DUNS number. That used to be the standard. Now they've kind of replaced that with SAM. But apply to Dun & Bradstreet here and get a DUNS number. That way, when you are doing credit with one of your vendors and they give you net 10, which means I pay you full amount in 10 days with no interest. They'll report to Dun & Bradstreet that, you're a good business to work with. And there's different credit ratings, like I told you before, that for a business than there is for a personal. They'll take leases into consideration. There's a whole range of things that these guys take into consideration that you don't do in a personal situation. Experian and Equifax, they also track. And another good way of doing things and something that these guys look at is your business listed in online directories. Roxy Turner is going to do a workshop next week here on the 18th, and she's going to talk about websites. She's going to talk about registering with Google. And I think you guys, BEDA has had workshops on registering with Google. If you don't know how to do that, again, get in their directory and find the old workshop. They'll tell you step by step how to register. But Roxy's going to do that too next week. She'll talk to you about registering and why it's important that you register and claim your business there. Yelp, Facebook, Instagram, you're looked at, your reputations are looked at through these different credit bureaus. Okay. I highly suggest you try to either get online or be here next week if you can. Any questions about establishing this type of credit? And I mentioned vendors. It's a negotiation with a vendor. In a startup situation, they usually want cash up front. But if you can negotiate, some sort of leniency, a net 10, a net 30, something like that, you'd be better off because you're selling their product, building up the money, and then you're paying them with no interest in 10 days or 20 days or 30 days, whatever you negotiate. So that's just a way of actually financing yourself. And that's that one. Build credit through vendors and suppliers. That's how you do it. Apply for the net 30 account, apply for the net 10 account, whatever days you can get. Business credit cards. Again, not personal. You may have to do a personal guarantee on it, but it's not a personal card. It's a business card. Use it for business expenses. Don't go to the grocery store and load up on groceries on the business card. IRS will frown on that. Request credit lines from vendors, extend ask them to extend your credit and see if they report your payment history back to Dun & Bradstreet and Experian and all those guys. So just to build up the credit history, because I guarantee you, if somebody comes in here to Jim's office or an Economic Development Authority office, 9 times out of 10, one of the first things they're going to do is, what's their credit history on Dun and Brand Street? Are they a good business to deal with? And they'll look you up. They will look you up. Suppliers, they'll look you up. They'll say, well, is this a good business? Do they pay their bills on time? So they'll check you out, guys. Okay. Again, Roxy's going to be here next week. She is the expert. If I have any questions on website, go straight to Roxy. I call her up. Hey, I got this problem. What do you suggest? And she'll give me ideas. But some of the things that she's going to talk about are these types of things. Optimize your website for a mobile phone, because there's a difference between a website for a mobile phone and a website for a laptop computer or a desktop computer. Okay, so it has to be optimized for the mobile. Improve your speed there. You don't want long load-in times. You've been to these websites where it took a while to load in a picture or something. You don't want that. People want nowadays instant gratification. So you want those speeds to be uploaded quickly, or those pictures to be uploaded quickly. Is it easy to navigate? Are there clear and simple buttons that you can push to say, I want to go here, or I'm looking for that, or I want to order? I was on some websites last night dealing with some lodging stuff, and especially like on a Facebook page that's supposed to be linked back to a website that says, I can book a room or I can book a cabin, whatever. Guess what they didn't have? No, a link to go book a cabin. And I'm like, I don't know if anybody's talked to them about this, but somebody should, They just didn't have it. And who knows how many people they're going to lose in booking for their facility because they didn't have that link on there. And then a lot of times they depend on like Airbnb. A lot of the places I looked at last night was solely dependent upon Airbnb to do their registrations and all their bookings and everything for them. There was no way to go to an actual website that said, I can book through you. I can get Roxy to always call on the professionals. With the state of West Virginia and Roxy services, we're free. Well, we're not free. We're paid for by your tax dollars. You guys remember in the very beginning when I showed you that we helped get $48 million in loans? Based on what the state of West Virginia gives us for our program, for every dollar that they give us for our program, we return back to the community 3,100%. There's not many organizations that can say that. We can prove our worth truthfully to people because we do help. And I did, of that 48 million, I did a little over 3 million myself down here. And this area is considered one of the most poverty stricken areas in the country. But I did a little over $3 million this year. Last year. This year I'm on track to do about 8 or 9 million with what I've got in the hopper. So we're good. We know where to help you find money if we can. But again, all the stuff Roxy's going to go over. The last thing I'll mention today is a call to action. What's that mean to you guys? If you're looking at a website, what's a call to action mean to you? Ask me to buy. You ever notice on those shopping channels on your TV that annoy everybody? They got the product, they got information there, they've got a price there, but they got this little clock that's ticking down. That's a subliminal call to action that I've only got X number of minutes to get this phone call in to buy this product that I just can't do without because of their descriptions and the way I really, I really need this product in my life. A call to action, guys. Make somebody want to buy your product. Make somebody want to stay at your facility. Make somebody want your services. Give them a call to action. Give them a reason to contact you. Any questions? Okay, one of the last things we're going to talk about is building a team. And one of the first things is hiring employees. Now, who do you hire? Just anybody off the street that's breathing? Nope. Got to have a good fit for your business because after all, they're representing you. They are your representative to the public when you're not there, or even if you are there, but you're somewhere else in the building. So when they're seeing the employee, they're seeing you. How do you want them to look? How do you want them to talk? How do you want them to act? What type of knowledge do you want them to have? One of the things that we've had problems with around here, had a lot of people from the outside coming into vacation because of Hatfields and McCoy's trails. Have you ever asked somebody for directions before, how to get somewhere? A lot of times people just did not know to tell them to go 52 to, whatever. They couldn't give them those types of directions. They'd say, well, if you go down to this business and you hang a left and you customer service, guys, comes back to that. How are they going to talk to people? Are they pleasant? Are they helpful? If somebody has a problem or a complaint, do they just dismiss them? Usually when they have a problem or complaint and they come in, they're mad anyway. Can somebody sue them over? I went to a lady one time. She was so upset. Nobody would help her. She wrote bad letters to everybody and their brother about my organization and other organizations because nobody would give her the help she needed. So my boss decides to send me. Thank you a lot. Anyway, I go and I just let this lady vent. I mean, I let her for 30 minutes, just whatever she wanted to say. I sat there and tried to sympathize with her as best I could. And finally, at the end, when I felt like she got it all off her chest, I looked at her and I said, ma'am, is there anything I can do today that will make you happy? And then her whole mood changed. She said, can you just get me on Facebook? I said, yes, ma'am, I can. And we sat there for about an hour and I got her on Facebook. I uploaded some pictures that she wanted uploaded. She was in antique business. And I uploaded those pictures for her. And when I left out of there, man, she thought I was like sliced bread. I was, I was A number one. But all I did was I let her vent and I said, how can I help you today? What can I do to make you happy today? I don't care about tomorrow. I don't care about yesterday. What can I do today? Same thing with your employees, guys. Somebody comes in with a problem. How can I solve this? I mean, I may not be able to make you totally happy, but how can I help solve this? So you got to have an employee on your team that fits you and your personality. That's what it comes down to. Okay, back to the CPA a little bit, setting up payroll, employee benefits. That's what they were worried about. How much are you going to pay me? And what kind of benefits do I have? Do I have insurance? Big thing nowadays. Do I have daycare? I've got a customer right now, client, that just bought a business and he found out that his employees really do need daycare. So he's going to start another business to provide daycare to his employees. So maybe that's, something down the line for you guys. What type of benefits can you give these people that you can afford that's going to make them happy? And are there benefits out there that don't cost you a lot of money that you can provide for them? Things you got to think about. Okay, some other people that on another type of team that you really need to get a list for is this. Do you have a mentor or a business coach? That's me. I can be on your list if you're in this area. Are there local economic development resources representatives out there? If you're in Bluefield, Jim Spencer, BEDA. If you're in Princeton, Sam Lusk, uh, uh, PETA, I think is what they call it, Princeton Economic Development. And if you're in the county, you've got John O'Neill with Mercer County Development. So you've got people there in local economic development that you can call on. Accountants, representatives, CPAs. Again, that's who you choose, guys, because everybody's going to have somebody different. So whoever you choose, whoever you get comfortable with, their name and number should be on this list. Do you have an attorney? Somebody that you can call on if you have some sort of legal question and or a legal problem. That name should be there. You don't really need to be searching for somebody in a moment of crisis. Your banker and your financial advisor can be your best friend. Do not wait. Again, back to my other story. Do not wait till the last minute. Talk to these people when times are good. Let them know, hey, good times. Sales are increasing. This is going on, that's going on. Well, let me ask you this question in this situation. Sales increasing, is that always a good thing? It's more demand, but I've actually seen people outgrow the sales, outgrow the business, and cause the business to fail. So you have to grow at the right rate. And your banker, myself, other people, we can help you, the CPA, we can help you with that situation and say, you're growing too fast. Because sometimes I get people to come to me and say, I want to expand. And when you start doing the numbers, it's like, no, I'm sorry, you're not ready to expand. If you expand now, you're going to go out of business. It's not always pleasantries that I have to say, but we try to do what's best for you. Again, if you don't want to take my advice, get a second opinion. Go to your CPA, go to your banker and say, this is the situation. Let them run the numbers. And if they tell you different, then okay, I was wrong. But, have these people on your team. Marketing expert. As a small business, 9 times out of 10, you are the marketing expert for your business. What does that entail? Well, for most people, it's what's on Facebook, what's on Instagram, what's on my social media, what's on my website, what's on those kinds of things. Okay. Well, again, back to you with the logic thing. And you're marketing yourself. You've got a Facebook page. Do you normally put pictures on there of your facility? Do you put pictures on, you described your landscaping to me in the break. Do you put pictures of the landscape on there? Do you market yourself in a certain type of atmosphere that makes people want to come and stay there? You have to think creatively and try to get inside the customer's head in order to market directly to them subliminally. We can help you with that. Insurance agent, again, you guys need liability insurance, definitely need liability insurance and probably some other kinds, but have his name and a phone number on the list. That way, if something happens, you can give him a call. You don't have to look it up. It's right there. Who's doing your work on your computers? Middle of the day, computer goes down. Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters, right? Because the gremlins done got inside your computer and messed it up. So you got to know who can come and work on your computer. You don't have time to ask everybody, hey, who works on computers? Think about this stuff ahead of time. This is a team. This is a list of people who can be valuable to you either in a crisis or in good times. Again, back to me. If times are good, let me know. I'll sit and talk to you. I'll listen to you. Things are good, things are bad. If you've got questions, run it by your coach, your mentor. Other businesses, if there's associations out there, chambers of commerce or whatever that you want to join and associate with, those people can, be good sources of information. Dee talked about the entrepreneur in April. Excellent way to get some advice from some very successful people of how was it when they started? What pitfalls did they go through? What would they do differently? This is your chance to ask them questions to say, here's what I'm thinking. Got any suggestions? You'll get 12 minutes with each one of them. Is that right? No, 10 minutes. 12 minutes? 12 minutes with each one of them. Don't sound like a lot of time, but trust me, it is. If you had to pay for the type of advice you'll get on that day, probably thousands of dollars they would charge you. So again, find a team, find some mentors, find some associates that you can confide in and talk to and get advice from. Okay, we have come to the point in the webinar that he's going to talk to you about the MOBI, My Own Business Institute, and after that, we'll take some questions. Any type of thing that you want to talk about after that, be more than willing to stick around or answer on camera, or however how you want to do it.
Thank you, Harold. The MOBI is a partnership that we have with Santa Clara University, and it is free. It's online, it's self-paced. So you go to our website, mybluefield.org, you go to resources, and you click on Entrepreneurs Bootcamp and you register. Then you'll be contacted with login information. There's a starting a business course. Then there's a managing a business course and a growing a business course. Now, when I say course, that's a misnomer. It's a group of courses. So it's a program, it's a curriculum. You will not receive a college degree, but it is with Santa Clara University. And it is a wonderful way to educate yourself and to give you information. You can pick and choose. You can do the whole course and receive a certification from Santa Clara. But this is ongoing. You can do it at night. You can do it the weekends. You can do 10 classes in a row, however you want to do it. Were there?
If you're thinking about Jim's food truck program, this is mandatory for them. This is a good way to get your business plan started in that type of program. There's how many modules? 15?
In each group, I think.
Yeah. In the startup mode, there's 15 modules that you can go through. And again, it's back to business planning. It's a short narrative with some short videos. Takes you about 45 minutes per module to go through. And it allows you to start getting ideas for each different section of the business plan. It's what I'm going to give you with the sample plan, and this will help you put together your plan. Because, when it comes down to it, I got 25 years experience. I can write this thing, trust me. But it's not mine. It's yours. And it's got to be your ideas, your thoughts. It's got to be you, because we got to present you on paper to whatever lending institution or investor that we may be talking to. Because even if it's a bank, they're investing in you. So this is a good way to get some education on all these different subjects. And it'll cover things like the incorporations that you talked about. It'll cover things about what are the different types of insurances. It'll cover things about bookkeeping, just general everyday things that I'm going to have to do. What I tried to do today was give you some information, answer a few questions to spur your interest to say, okay, I want a one-on-one with you, or I want a one-on-one with BEDA. I want to talk to these people and say, here's my idea. What should I do? And then we'll discuss the different points of it.
Thank you.
Any questions, guys? If you want to stick around, I'll stay here and answer your questions. Some people are too shy to do it on camera. If you're on camera or if you're on the web and you do have questions there, just put them in the chat and we'll get you some answers and get it back to you in a timely fashion. But I thank you for everything today and hope to see you soon,
Thank you.
especially next Tuesday. Stop recording. Okay. Yeah, the 18th.